Okay, it's a new day on the water, and today we're going to look at the Seadoo GTX DI again. Final issue I'm having is it will not rev up beyond 6200 in the water, and really it's the only thing I can think of is something to do with the exhaust and this exhaust rave that's in here. So I'm going to try a few tests. We're going to test it out, see what we get for top speed as it is. I'm going to take the cover off, take the spring out, see what happens. And then I think I'm going to pull that hose right off and see what happens. And we're going to start with that and see if we can figure this out. It's that or the raves. There's nothing else. So let's take it for a rip, see what we get without touching anything, and then we'll go from there. Tether it up. Reverse. It's going to be a little extra noise now with the seat cover off. Just gonna warm it up. Okay, she's warmed up. You can see I'll rev it up to 4500. That's usually when the raves kick in, and I barely touch the throttle and it takes right off, and that's why I feel like the raves are working fine. It's this exhaust valve issue. So let's get her up to 45. Takes right off. I'd say the raves are doing what they should. Now. Full throttle. That was a full throttle run, 6100. These go 6800 all day long, whether they're in the jet boat or whatever they're in. So I'm going to try pulling that off, and that will shut off the flow of water going to the pipe. Let's see what happens. Apparently you get poor bottom end performance when you do this, but we're going to do it anyway, just as a test. And it'll be a real pain to put this back together in the water. Especially when the spring falls down in the bilge. All this test is going to tell me is if that goes up and down, but it's not going to tell me if it's shutting off the flow of water. Let's do one thing at a time. There's the pipe there. Doesn't even look like there's any water in that. Let's fire it up, see what plays out. That's interesting. Nothing's coming out of that thing. Should we take her for a quick burn? There's no water in that at all. Let's have a look. Okay, we got the old one off, which is sitting right here. Here's one of the pipes that was connected. Water coming out. Rev it up. Connected to here. That would be blocked by the exhaust. Water comes out now. A lot. Weird. Let's try this other one. Why wasn't water coming out before? Why is it coming out now? I'm gonna put this one on, see what happens. See if water comes out of this one. Let's hook this back up, but I highly suspect that that's not an issue, but what the heck. Let's take it for a rip, see if anything changes. Okay, we're back on the water. 1400. Change. So obviously the other one was working fine. So what's next? I don't know what's next. So the GTX DI is in the garage, and as you can see, I decided to pull the raves off to see if there was anything going on that was obvious, and took them apart. Found one had like water and oil in it. And this O-ring was missing and air was blowing up out of the top here. So there was a problem. Now whether that's the problem, I don't know, but all we can do is one thing at a time and see if we can knock them down. I checked everything on the Seadoo Pro, everything is set right, all the sensors are reading correctly, air pressure, you know, we've got good or atmospheric pressure for the map sensor. All the injectors are working. My other thought was, if it's not this, then possibly a bad fuel injector, maybe not putting out enough fuel spray. They were pretty corroded. All I did was wire wheel them, but that was it. I didn't even test them. So I guess that would be the next thing I would try, is swapping those out with a couple of new ones and see if there's any difference. But there's no throttle from 3/4 to full. And it wasn't the water box. So I am guessing maybe this was it. But anyway, this was definitely a problem, so I'm gonna fix it. We'll just put these bad boys back together. They're keyed, so they only go in one way. It's a nice fit now. It was all loose fitting and everything. And when I sprayed air, it was all blowing out the top, which is not supposed to happen. Just a little snug. Let's put a little bit of air on them. They'll jump. Do it really slow to see if we can. Actually, that one is pushed down. Huh. Okay, that seems good. Not spraying all over the place now. I wish I had a film that. I got carried away, so focused on trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I almost left you behind. Okay, let's get some covers on. I don't know what this is for on these covers. It was something different they did, but you can't get the clip to slide down with that cover like that. Somebody knows and can explain to me what I'm doing wrong would be awesome. 'Cause that was the one thing I couldn't figure out. Makes no sense. It won't go down, but it has to go that way to slide up and close. So what the heck? Cut the frickin' thing off, maybe. Oh boy. Test them again. That seems good. Let's put them back in. Things in. Hopefully the gasket doesn't fall off. And a little bit of Loctite. Reverse. Should we pop this back in the water and give her a test? Or should we just say it's working perfectly and not even try it? I think we'll try it. Let's do that. And test drive number 36. That's what I mean when you find a problem, but it's not the problem. So, now I'm not sure what to try next. More thinking to do. I don't know if you can see that or not. That little black line, there it is. That's the mag spark plug. I changed the PTO one, which split in half. And this one's got cracks in it. I don't know if that would affect the top end or not. Seems kind of weird, but anyway, I've now changed the spark plug, so now we got to go test that and see if that solves the problem. Ugh. So broken spark plug fix, no change. Rave valve check, took them all apart, tested them, fixed the O-ring on it that was missing, no change. Pulled the restrictor, water box restrictor pipe, I guess you call it, whatever. No change. So I've got 2 other things to do, and I am attempting now, I'm going to put a different fuel rail on, and at the same time I'm putting in these $50 fuel injectors I got off of eBay. So we're going to try a couple of these in a different fuel rail, see if that changes anything, because then that could mean that one of these is a faulty fuel injector or possible air pressure regulator problem. So I'm going to try that. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to have to pull the exhaust and have a look at the exhaust. I suspect that that's where the issue is, but I don't know. There's just so many things that can cause the same problem that you got to just whittle down all the different things. I'm not having any luck so far. So let me pop these in, pop this onto the machine, and we'll go for another test run, see what happens. Maybe these, it's an opportunity for me to test these out anyway and see what happens, so kind of cool. Okay, retainer on there, Loctite, and a whole whack of bolts. Let's pop that in the machine and see what happens. Okay. It's just going to put the clamp on here, and then next step. Seems to be a problem. So much for that. They're different. These holes are in the center. On that rail, it's offset, so I'll have to put the injectors in this. So here's the original one. You see the holes centered. Check that out. It's at the further to the back. That one there. Never seen that, or never realized that. So now we're going to put those in there. And through video magic, we got a new rail on, put together. I think this is where we were when we left off. So, I don't even know if these fuel injectors will work or not. So this is kind of a double test. There may be no change in the top end, but the fuel injectors might work nice. And that will save a ton of money going forward instead of having to buy used rails and getting used fuel injectors for $300. Put a tether on her. And leakage. Now, why would that be? Maybe they don't work. Did a O-ring change, had a little tear in the O-ring on that injector. Testing. Doesn't like them. Okay, so after all that work, those eBay injectors don't work worth a damn. So, going back to the other ones. Original fuel rail back on, changed one of the injectors. Test fire. Okay, so the flea bay ones did not work. I'm just going to check and see if everything's snugged down. I'm going to take this for another spin to get a baseline to be sure that I didn't wiggle something loose or whatever. And we're going to move on to the exhaust. So let me do a quick test. And here we go again. Nope. No change. Last thing I can think of is the exhaust. Guess I'm pulling the bolts. Well, after trying everything I can possibly think of, I've got one last thing I can try. Here's an exhaust manifold, and it has a rubber gasket. And the kit also came with this gasket, so I thought I'll put two in there to double them up so that I don't get any leaks, because these have a tendency to leak. I'm seeing here that when this is all tightened down, that surface is probably blocking off those two channels. But when you put that gasket on, it creates a pathway for water to get through. I don't know if that's causing a problem or not, so I'm gonna open it up, take this gasket out, seal it back up, and see if that makes any change. I know that it's just a small amount of water in the exhaust that makes a difference for that 900 RPM, and I pretty much exhausted everything. I even checked the raves. I scoped in through the throttle body to see, and they were all perfect as well. So let's rip this out and see what happens. Let's do a leak test here first, or check. Dust, but no water. Let's go for a ride. Gonna warm her up. This thing is driving me bonkers. And back in the garage again. Pull out the manual, troubleshooting. Engine revs lower than its maximum operational RPM. Rave valve does not open. I'm like, no way. I tested all that stuff. Seems to be fine. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a different test. I'm going to cut the pipe right off the solenoid, take this out for a ride, see how degraded the performance is, and then I can compare, and then that will give me an idea whether the rays are actually activating or not. And with that removed, no change. It performs exactly the same, revs all the way up to 6100, doesn't go any further. I'm guessing I changed this solenoid and I don't think that it's activating. So whether the wiring is reversed, I don't know. I got purple to purple, black to black, but it's a different kind of solenoid than was on there before. Is this one plugged? Maybe. I don't know, but whatever's going on, air is not getting from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to cut that off, fire up the machine and see that we're getting air out. And then I'm going to also activate this thing and see if we can actually get air coming out of here. Maybe I should just do that first, see if we can get air out of here. Let's do that. Give me a maintenance light because I've cut the wires, but Yeah, let's see if anything happens anyway. So I'm just going to touch this positive lead to there and see if any air comes out. First, the polarity. I just want to see if air will still come out in the reverse. Yeah. Yes, it will. So now what does that mean? Why is it not activating? Let's see what conditions need to be met for that to happen, and do we have a wiring problem somewhere? So I was just about to put everything together. Want to check, I took the cap off this rave because I had to replace a missing O-ring in there. And when I spray just a small amount of air, nothing happens. Air is leaking up the side, and I'll bet you that's what's going on. It's letting the air out, and that's why this whole thing is not working. It has nothing to do with that, the solenoid, or anything else. I think we're going to put another rave on here because that will also steal the air from the other one. It will pop up once you get enough pressure, but look at all the water and everything that's coming out of there. That thing is definitely leaking. There's a bad seal or something's wrong with it. Let's just put a brand new one on there, or a new used one, take her out for a rip, see if that solves the problem. Pop that one out. New one in. Ah. You know what I better do is change the paddles, because if this one's been ground down and this one hasn't, it can hit the rings. So let me just do a swap. Okay. Look at how milky and everything it is in there. All right. Yeah, that could have been catastrophic. Pull this one out, which is a nice snug fit. Put this one in here. Again, that seems like a loose. They've definitely been ground. I'm seeing something else, like this is worn. Let me think about that. Just gonna assemble it and see what happens. Which one was in there? This one. Maybe I'll try and change this too. Okay, let's put a little air in it and see if it sprays or not. Oh yeah, just the smallest amount of air. Let's put this one in. Sweet. Let's spray a little air in there and see if it behaves differently. The other one, you could put quite a bit of air into it before it would do anything. No, that's totally behaving differently. Well, I think we got a good shot. So I'm going to button this all up, put an Oticur on there, zip tie on here, put the cap back on. And here we go for what, the 10th test drive. In the water, out of the water. Holy cow. On the lift, off the lift. Yes, I want you guys to be the first to see whether this works or not. I just don't know if you can see anything there or not. Raves are not turning on. Now what? Not giving up yet. I have unplugged this rave solenoid and plugged in another one and let it hang here. Hooked up a couple of alligator clips up to a switch. I'm going to manually activate that thing and see if it activates or not. Or see if we get a performance change. It's activating. Yes, it is. Gotta sit down to do this. Get me sick. What is going on? We're on the water again. I'm going to test a theory right now. I'm on the right track. It's something to do with the raves. We're not getting enough air pressure to the raves. We gained, I just did that last test there, I gained about 50 RPM. This one here is now all wet inside as well, where this one is nice and dry and moves easily. This one does not. And I'm thinking that that could also be a problem. So I'm going to change that out, test out one more time, and then see what happens. But there's something to do with the raves are not working, so bit by bit we'll work our way through. And again, this test is with 2 new rave valves. back in the garage, and I have to restore this solenoid back to original. The input should be this brass colored one, and the output is a silver. And the only difference is the size of the orifice here is very small, if you can see, for the air going in. I'm not sure what effect that has. I changed it to get more pressure to the rave valves because they weren't opening up, and that's when we discovered that the baffles were no good, and it wasn't the baffles, it was the actual metal rave valve itself was all corroded and worn out. So I'm going to switch that back, and then that will be it for this one. So I'm pretty excited about getting that resolved. I must say that was one hell of a challenge. And here's the other part that I took out, so you can see that hole is substantially larger than the one for the input here. It's just like a tiny little pinhole. So swapped them out, took it for a test drive. No difference in performance. I'm not sure what that restrictor is in there for, whether there's to restrict the flow coming out here, I'm not sure. But anyway, that is now resolved. The machine is running at the top RPM, and I'm happy with it. So that's the end of this video for the GTX DI Nightmare. Again, you just got to stick with it, keep trying different things. Every problem on that machine has 10 things that can cause that problem, and I think that's what makes these machines a nightmare, you know, from rave valves, the water box, compression, low air compressor, low air pressure. It just doesn't end, but it's quite rewarding when you finally do figure out the issues and get them going again. So anyway, that one's all done, running sweet. So I think now the next thing I'm working on is I've got this engine over here. That's out of the Mouse House Seadoo. Got everything all cleaned up, had to, you know, get an extra new rave and a few extra miscellaneous parts, starter and all that stuff. So ordered a new set of rings. One of the rings was chipped, so I got 2 new rings, pistons, everything else cleaned up really nice. So I'm gonna put that thing together, and hopefully we find something good. Oh yeah, there's the old raves, and you wouldn't know, like everything seems to be just fine with them, you know, other than a little bit dirty, but yet there was so much slop when you put the I don't know what you call that, piston in, like it's like, that's terrible. It's definitely all worn out, and that was that cost me, I don't know how many days of work trying to figure it out just because of that. Anyway, that's it. So hopefully everything is good with you guys, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.